Welcome to the Real Estate Espresso Podcast, your morning shot of what's new in the world of real estate investing. I'm your host, Victor Menasce. This is the weekend edition where we interview notable people from the world of real estate investing. Today is no exception. We have a great guest all the way from Las Vegas, Nevada. Welcome to the show, Beau Eckstein.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Great to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you.
So, Beau, you've been at this game a little while, specifically in the realm of commercial lending. Before we dive into the details, maybe give us a little bit of your backstory and how you got to this point in your journey.
Sure. So growing up, I grew up in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. Wasn't a very good student growing up, but I always had a passion for entrepreneurship. When I was about 19 or 20 years old, I got a job as a telemarketer at a mortgage company, and I started making phone calls, dialing for dollars, and got really good on the phone and started getting a lot of appointments. I then quickly got my license to originate loans in the state of California, which is a salesperson license, and started originating residential loans. It was pretty good. I was making pretty good money at the age of 20, 21 versus all my friends still in school or just graduating college. I went on to work for a very large mortgage brokerage in California, the biggest at the time. We had hundreds and hundreds of mortgage agents. And then a friend of mine and I, a business partner, got the bright idea to open the first branch in Nevada. So I moved up to Lake Tahoe, which on the Nevada side, which is called Incline Village. That's where they say the billionaires kick out the millionaires. This is where all the wealthy people reside for tax purposes from California. We had a pretty good business going. We then opened another branch in Reno, Nevada. Had a little bit of falling out with my business partner at that time, decided to move to Las Vegas. And during this time, I was buying all sorts of real estate. And then 2007 hit. And 2007, if you guys were in the real estate game back then, when you were a 20-year-old and didn't understand cash flow and were buying properties that went down in value 60 or 70%, and your mortgage business completely halted, it was a bad time. So I moved back to the Bay Area in 2008 because I was so over leveraged. And I was pretty depressed. I said, well, what can I do? I just ruined my credit. All I know is real estate. So I began to get back into the lending business. And now they had all these new laws and disclosure processes, which was fine. It was just hard to get loans done during this time. I also got my real estate broker's license in 2007. I started selling real estate. And I happened to run into a gentleman who was a friend of mine, and he owned a residential mortgage company. And he brought to my attention that he was also a managing member of a hard money fund. So that changed my mindset because they would do construction loans, they would do fix and flip loans. So I started originating for the fund, and I got pretty good at doing that. And at the time, there wasn't all this institutional money in the space like there is today. So it was pretty easy to cherry pick deals and fund them. And we would do pretty high leverage deals. And after I did a bunch of those, I said, well, if they can flip properties, I can flip properties. I'm a licensed broker. I can just go on MLS and cherry pick deals. And so we started flipping properties. But at that time, I didn't have money or credit, so I had to partner. So I figured out how to partner with the contractor, how to partner with a money partner. And we did that time after time after time. Then I saved up a little bit of money, but I still like to partner now to this day. Then from there, I've always had a big presence on YouTube and so forth. I actually got casted for a house flipping TV show on HGTV called Flip It to Win It, which was in 2013 and 14. We did 12 episodes. It was a pretty fun show. And from there, I got more into commercial lending, doing big multifamily bridge loans, construction financing, learning about HUD financing for multifamily, SBA financing. That's how I started my podcast, because I would just constantly learn how to put deals together. And I'm a really good networker. So I'm friends with all these people that run funds and things like that. So I'm pretty good at putting deals together. So today I do a combination of fix and flip loans to this day because I have clients. I do SBA financing for business owners, where you can finance assisted living facilities, hotels, different things like that. I do PACE financing, which is a state-enabled program, and just a lifetime student of the lending business. And I enjoy it. I invest myself. I don't really do big projects at the time, but I like to hit singles and doubles. Buying, I like the Midwest. I buy a lot of small properties in the Midwest. And now I'm buying in Pennsylvania because I like that state, because I used to live in Pennsylvania as a child, and price to rent ratios are really good. And on top of that, I have one other business where we go in and we're partnered We go into business owners and help them save money and automate their business processes. And I enjoy that because some of my clients that come to me for the SBA loans, I can cross-sell them or help them with cost savings programs. For example, we have a pay any day program. So if it's a large employer and they have 1,000 employees and the employees only get paid every 2 weeks, we have an app that they can get paid 50% of wages earned on demand. And the money actually doesn't come from the employer, it comes from us. So it's a pretty unique, it's called earned wage access. And so I have a company called Expense Savvy, and we have different products like that to help business owners. So I'm a lifetime student learner. I like to network. I'm really good at marketing, and YouTube's been really good to me. So that's kind of my business model. And then I like to talk to people like yourself and learn what other people are doing.
Love it. So maybe let's dive into one area in particular that maybe we haven't spent a lot of time on this particular podcast, and that's the PACE lending program. Like you said, it varies state by state, and it's really designed to provide lending incentives based on energy efficiency, correct?
That's correct. So there's 20 some states that are enabled right now, and it's really comes down to certain municipalities or jurisdictions within the state. Some states are very PACE friendly, and this isn't our PACE, it's CPACE, which is for commercial properties. There's a big difference because residential PACE has kind of a bad stigma in the market, but CPACE is completely different. So what we do, let's just say we have a sponsor that wants to build, we'll use an assisted living facility for this case study here. And traditionally, they might be limited unless they maybe go to HUD to get relatively, they're going to be probably 70, 75% LTC, loan to cost. So what PACE does, or CPACE in the capital stack, it's almost like mezz or preferred equity, but it is debt. So we're an assessment, almost like an assessment through the property taxes. So we work in conjunction with senior debt. So the big caveat is that the senior lender has to sign a one-page document, which is a lender consent document. Now, a lot of banks in the past have had worries. Well, you have senior position because you're like an assessment through the property taxes. So you're actually in front of us. We have no acceleration clauses in our documents. So if the property were to foreclose, we would run with the property and so forth. So there's very limited risk to banks. And that's why there's more and more banks and non-bank lenders opting into working with us. Over 300 banks that I know of, and probably more, have worked with PACE in the capital stack. So it's great in a couple ways. One is that we're building a cleaner product, better for the environment. Obviously, we need that. But really why developers love it is because they can raise less capital and have better returns at the end of the day. So it's really a two-pronged approach for success. So every developer out there should be looking at PACE in the capital stack.
So if we look at, for example, at the PACE program, presumably there's certain energy studies that need to be done on your new build to make sure that you're in fact going to qualify. When you just take your standard, International Building Code compliant design, will a modern design qualify out of the box, or are there specific things that you need to do typically to qualify, whether it's heat pumps or enhanced insulation or things like that will get you over that threshold? Sure.
So in a high level, each state has a little bit different benchmark we got to hit, and some are very liberal where you can add, you can do seismic, you can do foundation. There's a lot more of the construction budget that can be financed, but usually out of the total construction budget, there's 10 to 20% of the total construction budget is usually eligible for PACE financing, kind of as a rule of thumb. And so to answer your question, today's building code usually enables the program. So when we analyze it, we're not saying do anything different. Like, we're just saying, do you hit the benchmarks? And usually everything does in more in the liberal states. Now, we do have programs where you get better rates if you have like a zero footprint and so forth. So we could make recommendations there, but we never, it's not going to change the way you're building right now. So we're going to take what you're building and we're going to analyze it. The difference with our group too, there's about 80 steps to get this done. And with some other providers of PACE, capital. You have to go outsource the engineers and do all this stuff. With our group, everything's done internally. So they know how to maneuver and get the highest proceeds possible. But sometimes it's not about getting the highest proceeds possible. Sometimes we reduce our loan amount because the senior lender is lending a bigger chunk and their rate's a little bit better. So we size it up for maximum, but we oftentimes reduce it based on the needs of the deal. To make everybody happy, you got to make the bank underwriter happy. We underwrite off stabilized value, so we can be our underwriting guidelines are pretty liberal. It's really just getting the senior debt on board with the program is the big caveat.
And that's senior debt for your construction loan. Is there an obligation to keep the PACE financing in place once you convert to permanent financing, or do you do a takeout at that point, or do you keep that in place in conjunction with the permanent financing?
We could. So really, we listen to what the sponsors are doing or the developers. Usually, we do have prepayment penalties, but we have ways to reduce the prepayment penalty depending on the expectation of the sponsor. So if they're looking at refinancing year 3 or 4, we try to accommodate them the best we can with our financing options.
So there's some kind of yield maintenance associated with the PACE program.
Yeah, they're usually amortized. The states vary. So like Florida and California are more liberal in the PACE. So usually in most parts of those states, we can do 30-year amortization. Some states, we're capped at 20 years. But this is non-recourse debt, standard bad boy carve-outs. It's an amazing tool. It really is. It's the volume of PACE financing every year is just amassing greatly, right? Because it's becoming more well-known. Still, many people don't know about CPACE, but the next 10 years, it's going to be a huge boom. And it's not for every project. For example, if you're using HUD, it doesn't work with HUD debt. It doesn't work with an SBA 504. It will work with the SBA 7A. So knowing the caveats and how to maneuver. And then the big thing about this is if you're looking at possibly bringing PACE into the capital stack, get us in early, because we need the blessing from the bank, from the senior debt. So we'd like to be positioned, and our vice president has a very great way of explaining the program and can usually alleviate any comments from the senior lender, why their concerns. Our group is very good at overcoming objections. Why? Because at the end of the day, there's not much risk for senior debt in these, if they know all the, like, for example, they know that we don't have acceleration clauses and so forth.
Apart from a consent letter, presumably there's going to be an intercreditor agreement between the PACE lender and the senior lender.
Yeah, that's usually, as far as us, the lender consent is the important part. But yes, the intercreditor agreement, if the senior debt wants something signed, that would be negotiated back and forth.
Well, Beau, if folks want to connect, if they want to learn more, what's the best way?
They can just go to Beau Eckstein. That's BEAUECKSTEIN.com. You can find out more about me and all the different lending we do, and they can book a call. I love to talk to people. Sometimes I talk too much, but it's fun because I meet people from all over the US, but I do get investors in sometimes Canada. And then, I have some investors that are Americans, but they live abroad in 8 parts of Asia. So that's the best way of getting hold of me, and they can follow me and check out my YouTube channel. investorfinancingpodcast.com is my website, and they can also find me at YouTube.
Fabulous. Well, Beau, love the perspective. Definitely, listeners at home, you want to check out the PACE program, connect with Beau at BeauEckstein.com. The link will be in the show notes. In the meantime, have an awesome rest of your weekend. Go make some great things happen. We'll talk to you again tomorrow.